In this video, I'm going to show you how to absolutely crush your first 90 days as an insurance agent so that you can come out of the gate swinging and set yourself up for massive success. On the other hand, if you ignore this video and fall into the most common pitfalls that insurance agents fall victim to, you could set yourself back for months and end up being doomed to becoming a statistic. I'm going to break this video up into 3 separate sections. First, your first 30 days, then 30 to 60 days, and last 60 to 90 days. So let's start with your first 30 days selling insurance. Now, the first thing that I want to touch on is I recommend all new insurance agents to start on telesales and not face-to-face. Now, the reason why is because face-to-face is actually easier. It's easier, but it's harder to scale. So it's easier because when you're a new agent, you're able to be present with someone. They can feel and get a sense of who you are instead of just trusting your voice over the phone. Conveying trust through just your voice and just through vocal tonality is a lot harder to do than to build trust when you're sitting right in front of somebody. Also, if the sale's not really going the right way, you're not really controlling the conversation over the phone, if they don't like the way it's going, they can hang up. But in person, it's a little bit harder to kick you out of your house. So the next thing we're going to talk about is your activity. Now, when you're a new agent, there are a ton of variables that could be playing against you. One that absolutely cannot be against you is the amount of activity you put in. You already might struggle to sell. You already might struggle with underwriting. You already might struggle with retention and chargebacks. You have to overdo the amount of effort that you're putting in to make up for all these other variables. Now, as far as leads go, I personally recommend buying some new leads and then mixing them in with some aged recycled leads. The purpose of the new leads is obviously the fresher they are. Oftentimes you have people that remember filling the form out. It's more in recent memory because they just did it a few days ago or a week ago or whatever. So get some fresh leads and then also cycle in some aged leads. This is going to bring your overall cost per lead down. So if you buy $20 leads and spend $1,000 and then buy 450-cent leads for $200, the average between those costs is going to bring your average cost per lead down, which then makes it easier for you to become profitable and get a positive ROI on your leads. So back to the activity, I recommend making 300 or more dials per day, especially when you're first getting started. I talked to an agent the other day who's making 600 dials per day consistently as a newer agent, and she's freaking crushing it. There's a very simple equation. The more consistent outreach you do, the more dials you make, the more AP you write. Very simple. So when you're first starting, your goal is not going to be to get someone to say yes. Your goal is just to get as many no's as possible and find a laydown. More than likely, your first sale is not going to be somebody that's not ready to buy and then you convince them to be ready to buy. If it is, great, good job. You're probably going to have a very long and successful career in life insurance as long as you keep up the activity piece. But for most people, it's just going to be a laydown. For me personally, I started in face-to-face. I door knocked for 2.5 days and then finally I knocked on this guy's door. It was 2021 and he had sent in a lead in 2018. It was a 3-year-old lead. Got in the house, didn't really know how to run an appointment, but I was just, talking to him like a human. He ended up buying and his wife and granddaughter all bought. So I got 3 sales in one house, my first sale. And then later that day, I got another sale, which brought me to 4 sales overall on my 3rd day. So the key is once you get that first one, the rest are going to come really easy because it's a confidence builder. When you haven't sold anyone, it almost kind of feels impossible or it feels like forbidden that it's not available to you. But once you crack the code on the first one, everything will come easier. Your goal is just get through as many no's as possible and find that laydown, find the person that is ready to sign up so that you can check that box and then move forward and start to build your confidence. You're also going to want to focus on input and reps, not results. Your main focus should be to get out your 300 dials in the day or your 400 dials, whatever you commit to, not write 2K in AP that day. Your goal is the input and the result comes. Another thing I want to touch on is underwriting. This is a massive bottleneck for newer insurance agents because they'll write a ton of business and then none of it will actually get issued. My business partner, Julian, actually wrote 30 grand in AP his first month, which is fantastic, and only issued 3.5K. The reason why? He didn't know underwriting. So the way to solve this is to use an underwriting tool like Insurance Toolkits or Best Plan Pro. There's a couple of them out there. Just make sure that you have something that's going to accurately be able to assess what company you need to place someone with based off of their medications and medical history. Also, whenever you're getting objections out in the field, over the phone, whatever you're doing, you're going to want to take note of them because you're going to start to realize that a lot of the objections that you see are recurring. So you get it from Miss Jones, you get it from Mr. Smith, you get it from Mr. Davis. the objections are very similar. So take note of the ones that you struggle to overcome, and then go and take those to your mentor or your coach, or if you're working with us, take them to Julian and ask him on the sales calls, and have them role play with you on how to overcome that objection. You're building a skill set, and so whenever you run into an obstacle, you need to figure out how to overcome it. All right, and the last thing I'm going to touch on for your first 30 days, this is arguably one of the most important things that you can do in all of insurance and business in general, is to track your numbers. I can speak from experience because I never did this when I was selling, but if I had, I would have made so much more money, and I would have continually kept a faster pace for a longer period of time. Here's why. When you don't track your numbers, you're operating your business based off of a feeling. You go out one week, you have a terrible week. You go out another week, you have a great week. The week you had the terrible week, you feel like nothing's working. Note, I said feel. Then you go out and you had a great week, you write 8K in AP, you feel like you're on fire. So the week after the 8K week, you're excited to go out and write business and you're putting in more activity. But the week after the terrible week, you're not as excited to get out there and write business. So you actually do less activity, which is completely backwards, because when you have a bad week, you need to get more activity to make up for the bad week you just had. Whereas if you're tracking your numbers, you're gonna start to notice certain patterns. So if I flip a coin 10 times, it could land on heads 5 times in a row, and then on tails 5 times in a row. Or it could land on heads 9 times in a row and tails once. But if I flip it 100 times, it's gonna get closer to 50-50. And if I flip it 1,000 times, it's gonna get even closer to 50-50. Because when you play the numbers game, the odds start to even out. But if I only judge it based off of a 1 week or day-by-day basis, there's gonna be fluctuations. I might have a terrible week and then a great week and then an okay week. But if I'm tracking my numbers, I'm gonna start to recognize the patterns and realize, hey, for every 100 dials I make 1 sale. So then if you make 300 dials and don't get a sale, well, you know in the back of your head, based off of your numbers and based off your track record, you have 3 sales coming. And so by tracking your numbers, 1, you're gonna know if you're profitable or not. You're gonna know your lead cost, your lead spend, how much you're actually making, which is critical. And 2, you're gonna know what input results in what output. So what activity results in what AP. So a couple checkpoints to be at by the end of your first 30 days. You're gonna wanna have at least one 3.5 to 5K AP week. Once you've hit this number, you can kind of prove to yourself that you can consistently make sales on a week-to-week basis. Next checkpoint is to have an entire month of your numbers tracked. So that's dials, leads, lead spend, pickups, so answers, appointments, shows, AP written, AP issued, apps written, apps approved, and then chargebacks. We give all of our students a KPI tracker where they just plug in all those numbers and it produces a bunch of different statistics for them so that it's easier for them to run their business. But if you don't have something like that, you can easily make something in Google Sheets. The next checkpoint is to have made at least 300 dials per day or more. If you do that for an entire month, you are going to be ahead of 99.9% of other agents that are starting out there and seriously setting yourself up for massive success. So last thing here is a bonus. There's a book called The Slight Edge, which is like perfect for being an insurance agent, because the concept of the book is basically the small incremental changes and the small incremental work you do stacks up to incredible results over time. So if you are able to consistently make 150, 300 dials a day over a month and a half, over 6 months, the results are going to start to stack up. Versus the person that makes 1,000 dials for 3 days, you're going to beat them if you're being consistent. You can check out the audiobook and find it on Amazon. Helped me a ton. Love the book. All right, let's talk about 30 to 60 days. This is your second month selling insurance. At this point, you have an entire month of numbers being tracked. I kind of stressed on the importance of doing that when I talked about your first 30 days, but here is where you're actually going to apply that and use it. You're going to review all your numbers and figure out what's holding you back from being really profitable. Is it a closing percentage problem? Is it a chargeback problem? Is it an activity problem? If it's an activity problem, you should probably go back and watch the first 30 days section that we just did. Is it a leads problem? Which can be broken up into 2 different things. For leads, it can be either volume or it can be cost. Do you not have enough leads, or the leads that you have costing too much, and so your profits are low? So once you figure out whatever the issue is, we call it a leak in the bucket. You need to then go and plug the leak. So if you're not closing enough, do more sales training, study your objections, practice. If it's a retention problem, there's different techniques that you can implement to increase your retention rate and reduce chargebacks. If it's a lead volume problem, you can buy some aged leads, or you can start looking into self-generating your leads, which also helps with a cost problem. And we teach agents how to do that in our coaching program. Also, in your second month, this is where you're going to kind of start to go back and work in referrals. In your first month, you don't really need to worry about referrals too much because because it can kind of add a layer of complexity that you don't need, especially as a beginner. But in your second month, it's really the time to start going back and implementing different referral strategies. So you can call through all of your previous clients and use a referral script to ask them for 3 to 5 people that they know that could use your help. And that right there is going to generate you a ton of leads. So one of these like top guru marketing guys said a quote that is, whoever can spend more to acquire a customer wins, right? And in insurance speak, that's whoever makes more per lead they buy wins. So if one agent on one lead, they make 1 sale, that's okay, right? But if another agent on 1 lead, they make 5 sales and get 5 referrals from each of those 5 sales they made, well, now that 1 lead is infinitely valuable to them because they're working through a whole network of people. So by mastering the skill of referrals, you can literally 100x the amount of value that 1 lead brings to you as an agent. In your second month, you're also going to want to continue practicing and role playing with your mentor, continue to sharpen your skills. A lot of people kind of fall off on this in the second month. Some people can kind of start to get cocky and get ahead of themselves, but if you continue role playing, it is going to skyrocket your success. So some checkpoints to be at by the end of your second month, you're going to want to continue to hold that pace of a minimum of 3.5 to 5K a week in AP. If you're writing more than that, you're crushing it. But at this point, you're also going to want to start to focus more so on the profitability side. We're starting to plug some of the holes that we're seeing from tracking our numbers. So at this point, you want to have at least made $1,000 per week from writing business. You're also going to want 2 months of fully tracked numbers. This is going to save you so much time and so much money. And then by implementing some of these referral strategies, you should be trying to get about 5 referrals per week. This isn't 5 referral sales. This is just 5 referral leads. And referrals are typically the best type of leads that you can work. All right, let's talk about your third month. This is your 60 to 90 day mark. This is where you tend to hear about people burning out, as they call it. I actually had a burnout thing myself. Honestly, a lot of the reason why this is a common theme of this video is they don't track their numbers. And that is exactly what I was victim to. So around this time, you'll start to see a lot more chargebacks that will come into play. This is something that you should expect and you should be okay with. It is a part of the business, not a problem with the business. And that was a mistake in the philosophy that I had about chargebacks. So if you're tracking your numbers, chargebacks don't actually affect you as much. And the reason why is because if you get a string of chargebacks, it feels like everyone is charging back. But statistically, you should actually expect, especially as a newer agent, about 30 to 40% of people to fall off. So if it's between 30 and 40% of people falling off, that's normal, right? But some of the things you can do are following up with people after you close them. Call them a few weeks after, make sure they got their policy. There's different things that you can do, but expect to have those chargebacks. And if you're tracking your numbers, you'll see what percentage of people are actually charging back. And if it's within the normal range, you're totally fine. Here, you're gonna wanna continue optimizing and plugging in those holes in the bucket. If you have a lead problem here, lead volume to lead cost, well, self-generating is again going to be a good option for you to look at. And then also focusing on sharpening your sales skills. I have some agents that are closing 10% of their leads. I have other people that I work with that are closing 5 to 6% of their leads. If they got to 10%, they would double the amount of output that they're doing. So there's always ways to improve. At this point, you're gonna have a solid understanding of underwriting just from reps. Even if you're using an underwriting tool like Toolkits or Best Plan Pro, you're gonna start to catch on to certain things. So like this person has COPD, I'm gonna place them with this company versus this company, right? And you're gonna start to become sharper with that, which will also help with your issue rate. All right, and some checkpoints to be at. You still wanna hold that 3.5 to 5K AP per week mark. Again, if you're writing more than that, fantastic, you're doing great. But at this point, you also want to be making about 1,500 to 2K a week in take-home profit. You will want to have 3 full months of your numbers tracked and be getting about 7 referrals per week. Now, if you're getting 7 referrals per week, you are going to be in a fantastic place to start scaling up your business and getting to a point where you're making 2,500, 3 grand, or 4 grand a week and getting into that 6-figure range. So some goals for your first 90 days overall. You're going to want to solve the underwriting problem, which can actually be really easy if you use an underwriting tool. Learn to ask for referrals. This will change your business and makes every single lead 100 times more valuable. Master the sales side of everything and drill objections with your mentor, trainer, or upline, and take notes of all the objections that you're getting. You're going to want to track your numbers. I wish I could just call this video track your numbers, but no one would click on it because it's the boring work that nobody wants to do. But make sure that you are tracking your numbers in your first 90 days. Seriously, I wish I could just drill this into everyone's head because so many people don't do it. But if you do this, like, it will change your life. You're also going to want to have a consistent output. So commit to a certain amount of dials every single day and stick with it no matter what. Even if one day you write 10K AP and you committed to making 300 dials, still make your 300 dials. Just keep the pattern, keep the consistency, and you will freaking crush it. And the last thing is being willing to invest in education, not only with money, but also with time. So a lot of people view role playing or practicing as a time waster, but it's really not. So the more that you educate yourself, the more that you invest on improving your skill set, the more money you're going to make overall. And then on the money side of education, you should be willing to join an upline that may have a little bit lower comp if they offer good training. And then also the most successful agents are willing to invest in themselves and invest in their business by joining, programs that help them level up. That is going to wrap up today's video about how to crush your first 90 days as an insurance agent. I hope this video was valuable to you guys. If it was, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below letting us know what you want to see next. So if you guys are already writing between 3 to 5K per week, we actually offer a program that you may be a good fit for, where we help insurance agents scale up their business to get to the next level through self-generating leads, getting better at sales, nurture, follow-up using automation, and then also reducing chargebacks with some retention techniques and maximizing referrals. Click the link down below that says book a call to see if you would be a good fit to work with us. Without any further ado, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.